Today we're going to be talking about one of the most overlooked aspects to getting results and performing in the gym, and that is your recovery. Allowing your body and mind to heal and adapt is crucial to getting results. We want you guys walking into the gym at your absolute best physically and mentally, giving your body every opportunity it can to adapt from this stimulus that we're imposing in the gym. The other thing to consider, we can prevent injuries, reduce fatigue. Now, without proper recovery, we obviously run the risk of burning out, maybe getting injured, and having that frustrating situation where we're actually going back in progress. Our lifts aren't increasing, everything hurts, we just want to leave the gym, or we have less motivation to get there. We want to prevent those things, and we're going to talk about some key aspects in this video to prevent that. So how do we recover effectively? Now, there are many factors that can influence your recovery, but what we're going to do is go over the 5 key lowest hanging fruits that every single person can adopt to improve their ability to turn up for their next session and absolutely crush it. First up, we have sleep. Now, sleep is the ultimate recovery tool. It's when your body repairs and builds itself, your hormones are balanced, your immune system is boosted, and your brain is refreshed. There's a lot of evidence that shows getting adequate sleep improves your strength, increases your muscle growth, improves your fat loss, improves your coordination, and your performance in the gym. Now, on the other hand, a lack of sleep can do the complete opposite. It can decrease our performance, increase our risk of injury and illness, lower your mood and motivation to train, decrease your muscle and strength building potential, and even cause fat gain. So how much sleep do we need? Now, it depends on a couple of things like your lifestyle, age, and genetics. But as a general rule, around 7 to 9 hours is a good amount of sleep for the average adult. Now, if you're one of those people that struggles with your sleep, here are some strategies to improve your overall sleep hygiene. Try and sleep on a regular sleep schedule. So that means we have a set wake time and a set bedtime, and that's even on the weekends when you're maybe not at work. Try and avoid alcohol and caffeine consumption within 8 to 10 hours of your bedtime. Both of those things can disrupt the signaling process to drive sleep, which can leave us feeling tired and unrested. We also need to limit the amount of screen time that we're getting in the evening, in particular, the blue and green ray lights through the eyes. So maybe an hour to an hour and a half before bedtime, limit your screen time, go read a book, do something else that's encouraging your body to wind down and get into a restful state. And the last thing is create an optimal sleeping environment. So that means it's dark enough, you have comfortable pillows, you have comfortable bed sheets, a comfortable mattress, it's the right temperature. All of these things matter when it comes to driving sleep and for us to wake up every day feeling rested. Next up, we have active recovery methods. Active recovery methods are low intensity activities with the goal of improving circulation, increasing blood and oxygen supply to those muscles, and essentially removing any waste products that get built up in that muscle during all of our workouts. Now, some examples of some active recovery methods are low intensity activities like brisk walking, rowing, cycling, a bit of yoga, and these are best done on your non-training days. Now, the key to implementing a successful active recovery protocol is the intensity and the duration of that activity. We don't want it to be that intense that it's actually challenging our body's recovery capacity. We want it to be low intensity, probably around 20 to 30 minutes in total time, and we probably want to do it maybe 2 to 3 times per week. Now we're going to talk about stretching. Now, stretching gets a bit of a bad rap because people overthink it. Yes, there are situations where you can stretch and it can impair your performance and maybe put ourselves at risk. But there are also some really, really good situations where implementing stretching can improve our recovery and improve our performance. If we think about it, stretching can improve our flexibility, improve our mobility, and improve our performance because we can access maybe some positions that we couldn't previously have done. We can also do things like potentially reduce some muscle tightness, especially if we're adopting some active recovery methods. So we're gaining range of motion and we're utilizing the benefits of pumping blood and oxygen to those tissues. So we're improving our chances of removing waste product and getting some warmth and circulation through those muscles so we can get back into the gym and start smashing our sessions again. The other thing stretching can do is put us in a situation where we're avoiding things like injuries. When you guys are going into the gym, smashing your weights, lifting heavy, training to failure, we're creating a lot of muscle tension because that is the goal. Now what can happen is that can create a change in muscle length, and that muscle can get a little bit shorter. And that's why in some situations we might experience some DOMs and we might experience some tightness after that, because that is the result of the training that we're inducing in the gym. Now if we adopt some stretching, we can actually return that muscle to its normal resting length so that we can now perform optimally when we go into the gym for our next session. Now when to stretch is a bit of a contentious topic. Obviously we're going to benefit from stretching post-training, because when we go into the gym and smash our weights, we're going to be changing the resting length of that muscle. And what we want to do is do some stretching to get it back to that pre-session resting length. Now, if somebody's feeling tight before their session and they're going to train those muscles, it is probably advantageous to go through some stretching to prepare yourself for that session. But the devil is in the dosage. So what we want to do is not stretch for too long, because what we can actually do is start to fatigue that muscle even before we train. So in this instance, it might be more beneficial to do some short stretches, maybe about 10 to 15 seconds per stretch, and just gauge how you feel in terms of that resting muscle length and movement when you go through your warm-ups. Now we're going to talk about hydration, which is the process of replenishing fluids and electrolytes that are lost through sweating during exercise and regulating our body temperature. Hydration is similar to sleep. It's something that people take for granted, when little do they realize that adequate hydration does things like regulate our body temperature, maintain our blood pressure, heart rate, and blood volume. It also helps transport nutrients around the body, which is especially vital during training. It helps lubricate our joints and flush out toxins and waste products post-training. Now, dehydration can have some serious consequences for your performance and your recovery. It can cause headaches, nausea, weakness. It can also impair your cognitive function, mood, and concentration, which will ultimately make you suck at the gym. Now, how much fluid do we need to consume per day? As a general rule, around 2.5 liters of fluid is a good amount for the average adult. Now, if you add training on top of this, add around 150 mils for every 15 minutes of your workout. And if you're in a hotter climate and maybe you sweat a little bit more, or it's seasonal and it's the summertime, you may need to increase the amount of fluid that you consume during your workout, just because you'll be losing more bodily fluids in sweat, trying to regulate your body temperature. Now, it's important to note when it comes to fluids, that is all of the fluid that we consume in a day. So that is your water, your protein shakes, your coffee, your pre-workout, maybe your diet sodas, your juices, everything that we consume in the day. Obviously, we want to get a large component of the fluids from water, but it is definitely 2.5 liters of every single fluid that we consume in that day. Now, some typical signs of dehydration are lethargy, thirst, obviously, a dry mouth, and dark urine. Now, the last area that we're going to cover is stress management. Stress management is the ability to cope with all the physical and mental demands of life. Stress isn't always bad. An example of good stress is when we go into the gym and do our workouts, but our body reacts to good stress and bad stress the same. And too much stress can have an effect on your overall well-being, recovery, and performance. And although we can't control a lot of the stresses that get imposed on us day to day, we can adopt some really effective strategies to help manage them. Some common stress management practices that we've used with our clients are debriefing, journaling, some form of meditation for people who benefit from it, and maybe some breathing exercises. Another thing we can do where possible is just limit stressful situations and stressful people in your life. We like to call them the energy vampire. Another thing to consider when reducing your stress load is addressing unhealthy habits like staying up too late, too much screen time, a poor diet, and maybe leaning on caffeine and alcohol too much. Now, you'll notice by this point, we haven't really mentioned some really popular recovery techniques that are floating around at the moment. And that is things like ice baths and infrared saunas as an example. Now, both these recovery modalities maybe have their merit. In some instances, the jury is still out on the effectiveness of things like ice baths, but at the end of the day, if it works for you and you feel refreshed, you feel mentally focused, physically recovered, and you can get into the gym and crush your workouts, keep doing some things that you're doing at the moment that are working for you. The other reason is they are not very accessible for everybody, and all of the things that we have spoken about today for your recovery is essentially that lower hanging fruit that every single person can adopt. And I would argue you want to have these things on lock before you're leaning on other recovery modalities like ice baths and infrared saunas and maybe some compression gear and things like that. And that's all we have for this video. So hopefully by now you can start to see that recovery is not necessarily an option, but a necessity to improving your results, your performance, and reducing things like fatigue and your incidence of injury. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment if you have one. Make sure you're taking advantage of our free month in our training app by hitting the link in the description and following the prompts. Maybe take the results quiz and get a report on where you're struggling and where you're going well. And we have everything inside our app to start getting the results that you deserve.